Have you ever wondered what a Shakespeare romance would look like if you mixed it with zombies, time travel, and a generous dose of Japanese madness? Well, Romeo as a Dead Man is basically that, but on steroids and armed with laser katanas. This latest work from the legendary Suda51 is a mind-bending journey that will make you question your sanity, and trust me, that's exactly what the doctor ordered. The premise of Romeo as a Dead Man is so absurd it almost sounds like a joke. Romeo Stargazer, a young cop with a head full of conspiracy theories, is brutally murdered by a monster after stopping to help someone in distress. End of story? Not even close. His scientist grandfather, with a look straight out of Back to the Future but an apocalyptic version, resurrects him by injecting something directly into his eye. Yes, you read that right, into the eye. If that's the only way to come back to life, I'd honestly rather stay dead. But here's where it gets interesting. After this traumatic rebirth, Romeo joins the FBI Space-Time Police, a group of agents who travel in a spaceship hunting monsters across different eras. And to top it all off, one of those monsters turns out to be Juliet, Romeo's missing girlfriend, except now she's something like a Lovecraftian entity. True love was never this complicated. At its core, Romeo as a Dead Man is an action hack-and-slash combat game that will feel familiar if you've played No More Heroes or Shadows of the Damned. Romeo can equip up to 8 different weapons, 4 melee and 4 ranged. The best combination, without a doubt, is the Star Destroyer, a massive sword that looks straight out of Soul Edge, along with the Diaspora shotgun that has the weight and punch you'd expect from such a weapon. Combat focuses on slaughtering hordes of zombies, or rotters as they're called in the game, while your grandfather, who now literally lives as a patch on your jacket, gives you advice and maintains sarcastic conversations with you. It's exactly as weird as it sounds, and it works wonderfully. The enemies have enough variety to keep you entertained, from scorpion zombies that shoot projectiles to ballerinas with flesh tutus that give you chills. Each special enemy has weak points you can exploit for quick takedowns, adding a tactical layer to combat that elevates the experience beyond simple button mashing. Here comes the first important warning. The first levels of Romeo as a Dead Man are an absolute ordeal, especially the second full level set in an 80s mall, which represents one of the game's lowest points. The problem is simple. Your weapons are pathetically weak at the beginning. You need Sentry, a resource scouted throughout the levels, to upgrade them. Until you get enough to make significant upgrades, you'll feel like you're throwing spitballs at your enemies instead of using advanced future technology. Each level ends with a boss fight, and it's very likely that the mall boss will be too difficult for some players, leading them to abandon the game before seeing the best it has to offer. This problem is aggravated by another frustrating technical flaw. The field of view is too narrow and claustrophobic. On multiple occasions, especially in the early levels, you'll be attacked by enemies you literally can't see coming. It's as if you're giving Romeo a piggyback ride instead of controlling him. But here's the good news. If you manage to overcome that rocky start, Romeo as a Dead Man transforms into something spectacular. The difficulty curve completely inverts when your weapons become ridiculously powerful. Suddenly, you become death itself, the destroyer of zombies. The Bloody Summer system is key here. While you slaughter enemies, you harvest their blood to unleash a devastating special move that not only causes tremendous damage, but also heals you. This means that in later levels, you'll rarely have to worry about your hit points, especially if you complete some side dungeons. Healing is also available at space-time pharmacies distributed throughout the level. Use them and enemies will respawn, Dark Souls bonfire style, or you can even return to your ship the last night when you need a breather. Speaking of the last night, this is where Romeo as a Dead Man shows its true creative versatility. Between your violent time-traveling adventures, you spend downtime on your spaceship, which is rendered as a 16-bit RPG with a top-down view. There you can cook katsu curry, upgrade your stats by navigating a maze in an arcade machine, and talk to other members of the FBI Space-Time Police, most of whom have completely unhinged personalities. It's a testament to the game's variety and style that it can pull off this perspective shift without it feeling like a cheap trick. Everything feels cohesive within the absurd universe Suda51 has created. One of the most ingenious elements is Romeo's upgrade system. While you collect currency to upgrade weapons, to upgrade Romeo himself, you must navigate a large Pac-Man-inspired maze. Throughout the maze are upgrades like reduced reload time, surprisingly useful, and more health, among others, and you exchange your experience for passage through the maze. It's unique, fun, and rewarding, a progression system I'd love to see in more games. Another fascinating system is your ship's garden, where you can grow bastards, zombies you can use during battle to restore health, shoot lasers at your enemies, or dozens of other abilities. Growing and combining these bastards is a strange but entertaining side activity that's really worth it, especially when combat gets intense and you need that extra support. Not everything is perfect in Romeo as a Dead Man. At certain points, Romeo will need to solve puzzles, with barriers forcing you to enter subspace by talking to a suited man inside a J. Edgar brand TV to unlock them.
These puzzles could be pleasant breaks if they were ever clear about what you need to do. Eventually, you'll discover that the orb-based challenges revolve around smoothing out jagged spheres, but initially, the game doesn't explain anything. Similarly, the Sentry Forge on the last night, where you supposedly can create more of the resource from space debris, is a system that remains impenetrable to many players. Once you understand the orb puzzles, subspace becomes a nice break from the action, but it's a shame to feel lost at first, something No More Heroes handled much better. What really sets Romeo is a Dead Man apart is its unexpected emotional depth. Hidden behind all the exaggerated violence, pop culture references, and dark humor, there's a genuinely moving story. At some point in the later levels, the game becomes curiously melancholic, reminiscent of Neon Genesis Evangelion, where sadness isn't the dominant emotion, but does permeate everything around it with a touch of blue. Despite the main doomed love story between Romeo and Juliet never quite hooking you emotionally 100%, the small moments are what shine. Working with a zombie sniper to chase a time-traveling villain, listening to Romeo's sister tell a story the game warns you will take a while, or simply spending time with the unique and well-realized characters of your crew. These are the moments that make Romeo is a Dead Man special. Romeo is a Dead Man is packed with cultural references that feel charming and well-judged, enhancing rather than drowning out the game's own personality. There are repeated references to The Clash, each level begins with an Oscar Wilde quote, and references are made to Morrissey lyrics on the title screen and in the name of a boss fight. The music is also consistently brilliant, and while playful, it also manages to be eerily appropriate at specific moments. A level set in an asylum uses cockroaches as visual shorthand for horror and the supernatural in a way that strongly recalls John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. These influences never feel forced, but rather integrate naturally into the game's visual and narrative identity. Romeo is a Dead Man's greatest strength is its relentless creativity. The game takes you through multiple time periods, though sadly never beyond the mid-20th century, and each era has its own distinctive visual style. The game changes aesthetics every few minutes, keeping you constantly surprised. This is auteur design at its finest, idiosyncratic, strange, and thoroughly enjoyable. Romeo is a Dead Man isn't for everyone. It has a slow and frustrating start, systems that are sometimes difficult to understand, and a field of view that should be adjustable but isn't. However, if you can overcome these initial obstacles, you'll find one of Suda51's best games in years. This is a game that rewards your patience. Combat becomes incredibly satisfying once your weapons reach their potential, tearing through hordes of horrors relentlessly. The cultural references manage to feel genuine and add rather than subtract. The music is fantastic, and beneath all the blood and madness, there's a surprisingly emotional story about love, loss, and identity. Romeo is a Dead Man is probably Grasshopper Manufacture's best work in a long time. It's packed with that unique blend of stylized violence, dark humor, and genuine heart that makes Suda51's games so memorable. Yes, it comes with asterisks and warnings, but for those willing to embark on this violent and strange journey through space and time, it will be an absolutely fascinating experience.
If you're a fan of Suda51 No More Heroes, or simply enjoy weird and original action games that aren't afraid to be different, Romeo is a Dead Man absolutely deserves your time. Yes, you'll have to sucker through the first hours, but once the game finds its rhythm, it's a bloody and sharp spectacle that will keep you hooked until the end. Romeo is a Dead Man is proof that there's still room for auteur design in the video game industry, for games that prioritize personality and creativity over safe formulas. It's strange, violent, emotional, and completely unforgettable. The kind of game that stays with you long after you finished it, not just for its blood and style, but for its unexpectedly human heart. An imperfect masterpiece, but a masterpiece nonetheless.